This November, we in the border community have an opportunity to raise our voices, demand a more equitable society, and quite frankly, we can be a major bloc that helps change the balance of power in the United States Senate. As a border resident, I cannot remember a time where our votes meant so much, especially with the inhumane and draconian policies from the current administration that continue to hurt our border communities. So much is at stake right now in this midterm election. Congressman Beto O'Rourke from El Paso is taking on Senator Cruz, where a Beto victory can mean a switch of power in the United States Senate. With that said, there are a wide range of issues to keep in mind when we go out and vote. So one of the major issues that comes to mind is protecting Medicaid for the elderly and protecting those with pre-existing conditions. The current administration, along with a majority in Congress, have made it a clear option to eliminate these protections. Healthcare is a major issue in border communities, having some of the highest levels of uninsured people in the country. In Hidalgo County, for example, where we're at right now, according to the Texas Medical Association, over 200,000 adults do not count with health insurance. And according to data from the Center for Public Policy Priorities, nearly 100,000 adults currently uninsured in this county would be covered by Medicaid expansion if implemented by the state of Texas. So current efforts by the administration and the majority in Congress are proposing efforts to continue eliminating healthcare options for low-income and working-class Americans. In addition to that, the current president is using his executive authority to undermine the Affordable Care Act and has nominated Supreme Court justices who are opposed to the Affordable Care Act. In my opinion, I agree with millions of my fellow Americans that we need single-payer Medicare for all, and that healthcare is a right and not a privilege. People shouldn't have to go broke because they get sick. Healthcare coverage for all can save millions of people from economic insecurity. Another issue that we think about is economic justice. Currently, labor unions and working class Americans have also taken a hit from this administration and Congress. Most notably, the president's executive action that eliminated union representation during work hours for many of the federal employees across this nation. Additionally, the Supreme Court ruled 5-4 against labor unions, ruling that federal employees may not be required to help pay for collective bargaining. There is also common knowledge that many workers in our border community, alike many other workers from across the country, have been victims of wage theft. Too many people have experienced no pay for work, and the current administration has eliminated the Obama policy called Fair Pay and Safe Workplaces rule. This prevented companies with a history of wage theft from receiving any federal contracts. Those in power today in the White House, this administration, and those in Congress are not protecting the working class and the poor, and it's become obvious that they will continue proposing anti-worker legislation if they continue to stay in power. So our country needs to go the other direction instead and invest in workers who are the backbone of this economy. We need an economy that grows the middle class, not shrink it. And we can do that by increasing wages for workers across America. This wage increase includes raising the minimum wage to keep up with the increased cost of living in this country. Minimum wage full-time workers today struggle to pay the rent and are faced with a decision to apply for food stamps because they don't have enough money sometimes to feed their families. Nobody that works full-time should have to be applying for food stamps. They should be getting paid fully so they can live with dignity and provide for their families. Perhaps the most known policy that has defined the current president up to now is his zero-tolerance policy and the indefinite detention of Central American immigrants and asylum seekers. Here in the Rio Grande Valley, here in South Texas, we have been witness to perhaps one of the worst human rights abuses that our government has committed in modern times, as it has separated thousands of children from their parents. Until today, most of the families have yet to be reunited, and the government has shown little sign in having the capacity or the will to do the right thing and reunify these families. Furthermore, immigrants legally seeking asylum at the international bridge are being held back by federal agents who are following orders from the top. Not to stop there, zero-tolerance policies are not the only policies that target immigrants. Deportations and ICE raids have scaled up under this administration, not only targeting people who are high-level security threats, but also targeting a high record number of immigrants who pose no real threat to this country, to the United States. Aside from all of that, the president continues to use DACA, deferred action, as a negotiation tool and instead should be figuring out a solution for these young people who want to live their lives and contribute back to this country. His border wall proposal will cost the country billions upon billions of dollars and will do nothing to fix a broken immigration system and will be a symbol of hate in the history of the United States. The border wall will also negatively impact the local border communities economically, will strip people of their private lands, and will have environmental and ecological impacts for generations to come. What I believe we should do is support policies like comprehensive immigration reform with a pathway to citizenship for millions that have built their lives here and who pose no real danger to our society. And instead of proposing walls, we should enhance our international bridges and we should build our relationship with Mexico and strengthen our relationship with them. We should provide legal pathways to migrants who wish to come here to work so they won't have to put their lives at risk when crossing illegally. Let's do the right thing. Another issue is public education. Ever since the nomination of Betsy DeVos to lead the Department of Education, we pretty much forecasted that animosity that this department will have towards public education and the system itself. Many of us acknowledge the challenges and issues facing public schools today, and experts are working hard to propose new innovative solutions to best serve every student in this country. These solutions, however, have not been taken seriously by the current leadership at the Department of Education, and instead they have focused in slashing public dollars for public education. In recent budget proposals presented earlier this year, Betsy DeVos aimed at redirecting $1 billion to be spent on private school vouchers and other school choice plans. She also proposed cutting $3.6 billion, you hear that correct, $3.6 billion, for after-school programs for needy children and training for school teachers. In addition to that, the administration went as far as proposing $200 billion cuts in financial aid and loans for low-income and working-class college students. This approach that the current administration is taking clearly targets low-income students and first-generation students like myself and so many of us here, whose most likely path to the middle class is a college education. In the Rio Grande Valley, many of our high school students are low-income first-generation students who will be directly affected if these proposals ever get enacted. And as a former college student myself that had his share of college loans, and as a financial aid specialist at La Joya Independent School District, I have seen enough and truly believe that the best way to fix the issue of student debt is tuition-free college. Students shouldn't have to be in deep debt because they want to go to college. Not only would it be good for students and their families as they climb out of poverty, it will be good for the economy and for industries who are in need of people with higher skill set levels. And aside from these issues, there are many other issues. This list of issues that I detailed are only a few amongst many other issues that are being decided on right now. For example, equality for our LGBTQ community, who continue to experience high levels of hate, crimes, and continue to organize politically and fight for the right to exist and to be treated equally under the law. Also, our environment is under attack by policies expediting the creation of pipelines, especially in minority communities who experience the negative effects of environmental crises. We also have a criminal justice system that incarcerates more people per capita than any other developed nation in the world. We have a private prison industry that makes profit out of incarcerating people, a policy that is implemented in the apprehensions of undocumented immigrants in this country. Statistics show that nearly 3/4 of immigrant detainees are held in private prison facilities. There are millions of Americans who serve long detentions for nonviolent offenses, filling our jails and in the process ruining their lives of those who committed minor crimes. We need to end the private prison industry and end the prohibition of marijuana as it has set motion an unethical private prison industry making money out of nonviolent offenders. We continue to have veterans who are not cared for. Many veterans in need of mental health care continue to go without it, and we still see way too many veterans in our streets living homeless. In the valley, in the Rio Grande Valley, we still do not have a VA hospital, and many who put themselves in the front lines of our military continue to struggle to receive the adequate care they so much deserve. We need policies that don't only brag about our military, but instead we need policies and laws that protect our veterans when they return home from combat. So in general, there are many issues on the line right now. This is a call to action to all my fellow brothers and sisters from the border to speak up, to vote, and to show Washington, D.C. that we are a force to be reckoned with here in South Texas. This November, we have a chance to make history and tilt the balance of power in the United States Senate. Like I mentioned earlier, Congressman Beto O'Rourke from El Paso, a fellow border native, is taking on Ted Cruz for the U.S. Senate seat. Ted Cruz has championed and endorsed most of the current administration's policies, many that negatively impact our border community. So what do? Let's get registered, let's register others, let's use the power of our votes and shape the future that we know that we deserve here in the border and here in South Texas. Thank you.